Okay, we're running. So, your first memory of the Bickerton?
My first memory of the Bickerton bicycle was when I was quite young. I probably around about 10, something like that. And my father he'd been banned from driving, having had rather a nasty car accident. And as a result, he bought himself a racing bike and then a rather heavy folding bike, and decided that he could do something rather better. So set about designing a folding bicycle on the kitchen table. So my first memories really are of my father getting up early in the morning. He used to get up at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and start work, smoking his Players medium navy cut cigarettes one after the other, and designing this extraordinary folding bicycle on the kitchen table. So that was probably my first memory.
Did he ever talk to you? I'm sure he did. Talk to you about how the concept came about. Was it through a frustration of not being? I mean, how did it?
The issue was transport for himself when he was banned from driving, and he started looking at it from first principles. And I mean, I think originally he looked at all sorts of extraordinary things like personal airships that pop out of a suitcase, things like that, just to sort of tick the boxes and say we can't go there. He very quickly came to the realization that actually a folding bicycle that could be used in conjunction with other forms of transport was actually going to be the easiest thing to go for, and set about designing his own, having tried to buy one in the marketplace that didn't do the job.
Just one other thought about this. How did he go about it? I mean, it's all well having an idea of a folding bike and understanding the principle of a bike folding to be used in conjunction with other modes of transport, but how does one start?
Well, his history was that he'd been an apprentice with Rolls-Royce before the war. During the war, he'd worked at Rolls-Royce on Merlin engines, then was seconded to RAE Farnborough, where he worked again on Merlin engines, then went on to helicopters and various other things. So he was used to dealing with modern aeronautical materials. And so he started off by looking at what you could do to make a bicycle, but make it as light as possible and of course portable. That meant folding as small as possible. So looking at a fairly radical thing being small wheels. Of course that had been done by Moulton just before, but actually putting it into a format for a fully folding bicycle was a fairly novel idea. And so that really was how he set about the concept of a folding bicycle.
Do you think the public was ready for a folding bike at the time, given that this was the early 60s?
This was the late 60s, early 70s. So no, I mean, a folding bicycle was a completely radical idea. And we had to break the ice, really, for folding bicycles with the Bickerton.
Rumour that Bickerton approached Brompton, or was it the other way around? What happened here?
When we closed down the Bickerton factory, When we closed down the Bickerton factory in 1991, we had quite a good factory, a good, well-trained workforce. And we felt that there was some possibility that by bringing Brompton to our factory to make their bikes, there would be some synergy. Might be a way of keeping the company going, even if not the brand of Bickerton. We approached Andrew Ritchie. I think we had a meeting in the offices of my father's partner, Steve Rowlinson, in St James's Square, I seem to remember. Anyway, but Andrew decided that he'd rather continue ploughing his own furrow, and so that didn't happen. But the Bickerton company closed down, having been making money. It was a reasonably wealthy company, so we exited the field with our heads held high, but really had got to the stage where we felt that we couldn't take it any further without very significant investment. We did try to put some investment in. We got we got.
Let's just wait for him to. He's got a job to do. We did try to.
We did try to keep the company going by making an investment into composite plastic materials as a way of making our frames. We actually won a DTI Smart Award, which actually, funnily enough, subsequently Brompton did as well. But we used the money from the DTI Smart Award to fund a project to see whether it was worth our while making the Bickerton, or a new version of the Bickerton, out of composite plastics. Of course, it was very early days of composites. You look around now, there's a bike called Go Cycle, which has done probably exactly what we would have liked to have done, but it was too early. So sadly, nothing came of our ideas to either join forces with Brompton or to go down the composite plastic route. So I started working with Dahon in a much more serious way, and we've gone from strength to strength in that area. So.
And just for David's benefit, the Mark II Bickerton, was it ever mooted around this idea? Did you ever regret not doing it?
I do regret not keeping the Bickerton name alive. It's still to this day we have people who ask us, why don't you start doing a Bickerton folding bicycle again? And I look at it and I think, well, yes, it'd be great, but all we'd be doing is trading off the brand name rather than actually having anything new to say. So I prefer to invest my time in working with Dahon, who had some great products and competes very successfully against Brompton, but in the nicest possible way.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good.
That was great.